do you realize you have more followers than the CEO of IBM? And I was like, do I?
This is Aishwarya Srinivasan, AI thought leader and one of the boldest voices shaping the future of machine learning. From IBM, Google, Fireworks.AI to dominating the global stage as a speaker and educator, Aish is not just in the room, she's reshaping it.
I have earned a seat on the table. I am rightfully given that position. If they are paying me.
In this episode, we go beyond buzzwords and into the mindset, the hustle, and the raw truth behind breaking into AI and owning your power in tech. Raj sits with Aish to discuss mindset, momentum, and making a mark. And here they are.
First of all, Aish, welcome to this podcast. Very excited to talk to you. This is the age of Gen AI, and there are a lot of new Gen AI influencers, but not you. You have been working in machine learning and AI for a long time. You worked as an intern on machine learning on Microsoft. You worked at data science in Google. You were AI lead in IBM and many other places. Also, you are a world-renowned author as well as global speaker. So welcome to the show. Very excited to have chat with you.
Thank you so much, Raj, for having me here.
Excellent. So Aishwarya, so you have been in Gen AI space for a long time before this was so overhyped. What's your vision of Gen AI 2 years from now?
What's my vision? I definitely see it being more incorporated in consumer products. That's the biggest change that I'm seeing. From an enterprise perspective, there is still a risk index which comes in play when enterprises want to put this in practice, purely because of the generative nature of the models, right? Is partly probabilistic, but then still controlling that probabilistic spectrum with confidence interval and stuff is not as easy or not as interpretable similar to a traditional machine learning model. And that's why it's easier for enterprises to be using traditional machine learning models for most of their use cases compared to generative models. But especially where the risk index is lower, in situations like customer support, or in situations like let me build you image based on your prompt and stuff, those are use cases where it's okay to be wrong certain times, because you can give the leverage to the users to recreate these images, or to redo, or to question again, or have a chain of thought prompting with the chatbot. So those are situations where it's being used most. But then what I see is a huge surge of usage for consumer products, which is B2C products, both in terms of application or in terms of AI on edge, which is, I don't know if you work at Amazon, right? So you would have seen Alexa Plus was launched, which is incorporating LLMs in the Alexa tools, in the smart home tools, right? So that's the biggest change I'm anticipating will be the most. I do see another trend, which is quietly happening in the back end, but it's not as spoken about on social media or on the blogs that we're seeing everywhere, which is about vertical AI applications, which is what I'm seeing the major use in. So for example, after the DeepSeek model was released, we saw 500 to 1000 variations of those models just in the first couple of months on Hugging Face. And all of these models which are being distilled, which are being pruned on top of the original model, are coming from a vertical perspective in mind. So you're trying to train it for specific use cases, for specific grammar mode, for specific data sets. And that's the biggest change which is coming, in the sense that there are foundational model companies which are building general purpose LLMs or general purpose multimodal models. But the way that it's being incorporated in applications is after being distilled. It's after being customized it for specific vertical use cases, rather than just being embedded as a general purpose technology.
Got it. Okay. I do have to ask you, you have been in this machine learning field for a long time. How do you feel about all this Gen AI that's going on? Everyone is jumping into it, a lot of influencers and stuff. How do you feel about it?
I feel very excited about it. To be honest, I've been in the space since traditional ML was a thing. So
Right.
I have had a pretty traditional path of being a data scientist, moving from software engineering to data science. And it was since the later part of my time at Google that I moved into generative AI space in particular. Back then, Gemini models used to be called as Palm models, and that's when I really like started going deep into generative AI space. I definitely feel very excited about it, and the most important thing that I feel about it is how easily it is accessible to a lot of people who are not specialized, and that's
Right.
what I'm most excited about, that you don't have to be a data scientist or you don't have to be a ML expert in order to leverage these toolkits. That's what
Right.
excites me the most.
Excellent. Love it. So, question for you. A lot of folks are trying to learn Gen AI, but it's growing day by day. So, how can someone navigate the chaos and learn Gen AI?
So I think the question goes back to what are you trying to do? And I get a lot of the mentorship calls that I do where people have the exact same question. They're like, how do I keep myself up to date about everything that's happening in this space, right? You don't. The simple answer is you don't have to know everything that's going on in the space. The goal is what do you want to do? It's the same question if you go back and like tell a student that, hey, I want to be an expert in each and every subject that's being taught in the school. No, you don't. The reason that you're being taught so many subjects is so that you have the awareness of everything that's happening in the world, and you get to choose your expertise, you get to choose your area of specialization and go further with that. And that's the exact same thing happening in the AI space. I would say everybody needs to have a base level AI literacy, which is understanding how the models work, what the capabilities are versus what are some of the things which are challenges or bottlenecks, understanding how they get integrated into applications, how they are being trained, how they are post trained, how are they being like used for inferencing. But all of this being said, like this should be from a very literacy perspective rather than trying to be expert in every single pillar. So, what I like to share is the T framework, which is there are the breadth of the things that you need to know about AI should be from a high level perspective, which is level 100, level 200, that's pretty good enough. But for the topics that you want to go really deep into, if you want to go like level 400 into certain topics, you can't do it across the board. So you
Right.
have to have certain niche that you want to explore, be it building toolkits on top of Gen AI. That means that you need to understand the integrations, the toolkits, understanding like vector database, both or in either in like open source or closed source, or if you're working in particular tech like Google Cloud or Amazon,
Right.
etc. So you got to understand what is your skill set and what do you want to specialize in, and then go deep into that.
Got it. And how do you keep up, Aishwarya? Like, let's say A2A just came out a couple weeks back. Do you
Yeah.
just study or do you jump in and start coding?
So A2A is something that I have to still explore. All I have done is just read through the blogs that are available. I haven't had a chance to like try it hands on, but I learned about it while I was at Google Next. Keeping myself up to date is just being present in all of these places where I can get the information from, and I consciously choose like where do I want to go deep into. Like there's obviously a lot of research papers that keep getting published, and I use my fair share of like AI tools, like be it Notebook LM or like Unriddle for like research papers and stuff. So I use a bunch of these toolkits to help me go through this content faster. The other thing is creating content on LinkedIn has been my discipline to learn about everything that's happening. So it's become my schedule to like pick up a few books. I have this LLM engineer's handbook which is with me all the time. So I'm always like browsing through certain chapters. It's physically impossible for me to read everything, every book end to end. So I
Right.
just try to like pick and choose whatever is the most relevant for me with what I'm working at Fireworks. So yeah, that's how I go back and forth into like learning something for having a knowledge of about it versus like going deep and like trying it out.
Got it. Well, I do have to ask a question. So previously, I interviewed someone named Sundas, and she has 300,000 followers in LinkedIn. Okay, and now you have 540,000. So you officially became largest influencer with the largest follower I'm interviewing from LinkedIn. How did you grow your LinkedIn following?
First of all, like, thank you so much. You're too kind. I have been putting out content since my undergrad. I did my
Wow.
undergrad in India, and at that point in time, I was very focused in academia. So I was publishing research papers in machine learning, and that's the path that I wanted to take. And I realized the kind of opportunities that I'm looking for was not in India at that time.
Right.
So I'm very glad things have changed for my next generation, or like people who are studying in India right now. But that was my motivation to put myself out there, share my thoughts, talk about my paper, talk about my what I'm working on, connect with people in other countries where I thought I would go. Starting with, like, I connected with a bunch of researchers in London, in the US, and started talking to them about like what they're working on, worked with them on a few projects. So that's how it all started. So that's 10 years ago is when I started using LinkedIn. From that time till 2020, I had about 35,000 followers. And 2020 is when I got LinkedIn Top Voice. And after which I realized, oh, this is a thing. I did not really understand what this followership or like, what this community means, because creator economy did not really exist back then. It was still mostly people on YouTube. LinkedIn was never considered as a creator platform.
Right.
So it's a funny story that I was on a field trip with people on my team at IBM. And very good friend of mine, now he's like a very good friend of mine, Armand Ruiz. He's the VP of data science at IBM. He used to be my boss at IBM, and he pointed out, he was like, "Do you realize you have more followers than the CEO of IBM?" And I was like, "Do I?" So that was the first realization of, oh, followership means something, and I have actively seen getting a lot of opportunities because of that followership. I wouldn't say purely it's because of the number, but it's because the content that I used to write reached so many people out there. And it used to be that somebody would reach out to me in New York and say, "Hey, I read this blog of yours, or I read this post of yours. We are doing an event at this university. Do you want to come and give a talk?" So that's how like it started becoming a thing. And I realized the potential of having a really good brand for myself. And I would say more than anything else, like, I'm sorry, this is a longer answer than what you expected.
No, no,
But
this is good.
a lot of times people just think that having that number is what really matters. But for me, I don't care about the number. I care about the quality of people who are following me, because at the end of the day, that's what I care about. Because if I'm sharing something in specific to machine learning or data science, I want it to reach the right audience. I don't
Right.
care if it's a million followers, but half of them are not relevant to what I'm writing about. So I care about the quality of the audience. I care about how I can collaborate with this audience. I care about like how this is going to be a two-way street, not just me dumping post after post to people.
Right.
And I am extremely happy and extremely grateful for the kind of opportunities I've had via LinkedIn. And yeah, since 2020 is when I started consciously putting effort and putting structure around how I publish, how often I publish, the kind or like variants of topics I write about. So in the last 5 years is where I would say I've been putting a lot of conscious effort, and thankfully, that's how it 500K.
It's incredible. So a couple of things comes to my mind. One is, first of all, when we were studying in India, there was no consciousness of LinkedIn or like social media back then. I'm older than you, right? I'm so glad that the new generation is adopting LinkedIn and GitHub and Twitter, and then they're putting their body of work out there. Secondly, like you have a very deep, rich history of machine learning. Like you are not someone who just picked up Gen AI last year because Gen AI was the thing, right? So I think that also contributes to your wide network, right? Because people could see through that, okay, this lady really puts out deeper content that actually helps me learn and implement the AI principles. So I think that helps your brand and audience have a better quality of audience.
I do agree. And I would say it's not just from the posts. I think what people on social media don't realize is that posting and getting followership is not the end of the story. The end of the story is how you use that audience to get opportunities for yourself.
Right.
And once you're in front of leaders, once you're in front of people who are building the toolkits in practice, and you're there to advise them to do something, it becomes extremely black and white on if you have expertise or if you don't. So I think that's the biggest difference. Like, I feel very grateful to be getting the opportunity to like work with a lot of startup founders, with big tech, with advising them, with like doing brand partnerships where I have to go deep into their technology, implement them, build demos around it, and then showcase it to my audience. So That is the gap, I would say, that differentiates a creator who's like purely like regurgitating the information on the internet versus somebody who's an expert in any particular field.
Right. No, I totally agree. Thank you for being a loyal listener to this podcast. If you want the latest cloud interview guide, including GenAI interview questions and their answers, with average answers that most candidates give and delightful answers that sets you apart and get you hired, go to cloudwithraj.com/newsletter. Again, cloudwithraj.com/newsletter. All right, back to the episode. So talking about opportunities, currently, even though you worked in big tech and stuff, currently you hold the esteemed position of head of AI developer relations in Fireworks.AI. Just popped onto my feed. Fireworks.AI is regarded as the top 50 Forbes AI company list. So what does Fireworks.AI do? Can you tell us a little bit about what challenges or what problems it's trying to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. I am extremely grateful to be part of this team. It goes back to while I was at Google. That's where I met Chen Yu, who's the co-founder of Fireworks AI. We got to work together in this team called Gen AI Specialist, and that's how we got to know about each other. And when he was starting his own company, he just offered me to like join the startup. So it's a wonderful opportunity. I would say that in terms of like, having an imposter syndrome, I don't think I could have felt anything like this ever in my life. Every single person I'm working with, they are the top 0.00001% of like, experts in the field. So I feel extremely privileged to be part of this team. And what Fireworks does is, in the simplest way possible, if I were to put it, it's the fastest inference engine for generative AI models. So whenever you're looking at models which are in hundreds of billions of parameters size, it's extremely hard to run that in low latency, high speed, high throughput, as well as maintaining the quality of the output that you're getting from these models. So that's what Fireworks specializes in. We are running large language models, multimodal models in a very, very fast fashion. So if you would have seen like artificial analysis, that's basically a third party independent benchmarking company, and they have been like putting out Fireworks as like one of the top inference engines out there to like run generative AI models. So if you're using Cursor, I think Cursor is the tool that everybody knows about. So the entire fast apply that does code completion is entirely running on Fireworks.
Oh,
So
wow. I
yeah.
didn't know that. Okay. And that's incredible. And I also saw you guys are hiring. So who are the ideal candidate?
There's a few roles that we have on the website. That's the career pages, but then we are always up for like opportunistic hires. So if you are like, hey, I really want to work, I have the right kind of skill set to contribute in this team, but then you feel that the listed roles are not right for me, still feel free to apply. There's a website, just apply to that and we'll figure out the right fit. If you are a right fit, we'll create a role for you and like get you on board.
Yeah, I'll give all the links in the description. Okay, so you run the developer relations in Fireworks AI, cutting edge company. You run 500K LinkedIn followers. You make deep posts. You have given 90 plus global sessions. You are also EB1 recipient, which is incredibly difficult. But that's not it. You have also written a book. So talk to me about your book. What's your worth? What it's about?
So I feel I stumbled upon the thing called personal brand without realizing the terminology personal brand. I like to say that I have always been overly optimistic about things, and I have been overly, I wouldn't say overly or whatever, like over or under is subjective, but I've been fairly confident about my skill set since I was in college. So that is something that always made me think that, hey, because I am an intern at a company, or because I'm being like, offered a job role at a company, it does not mean that they're entitled to treat me the way they want. I have earned a seat on the table.
Right.
I am rightfully given that position. If they are paying me $100, which means that I'm creating more value than that.
Right.
That is the underlying principle that I have always worked on, and I feel as individuals you need to have that self-worth for yourself, and that's something that has unconsciously been there. It was nothing that I trained on, or like, it's just been there. And it was during 2021 when there was a lot of layoffs going on,
Right.
when one of my friend, I was having a conversation with one of my friend, extremely talented, got laid off during that season. And nothing to do with his performance. It was just plain unfortunate situation. And I was having a conversation with this person, and he was like, I don't know how to introduce myself anymore because we are so used to going to not just events, not just like tech
Right.
meetups, but also like, personal events, family events, where you just go and say, hey, what do you do? I am a software engineer at this company. That's just
Right.
how we are trained, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was having this conversation and he was like, I don't know what do I call myself, like, And that's when I realized that a lot of people try to hide their skill set behind the position, behind the company that they're working for. And in the most honest and the nicest way possible to say this, nobody in this world is indispensable. Any company can push you out of the organization just like that, can lay you off, and they'll still work very, very fine.
Right.
So if you don't give yourself that priority, then nobody else is going to do that for you. And that's when I started thinking about sharing this with everybody. I had actually started off with writing posts on LinkedIn. I used to like write a lot of posts about personal branding. And on the comments, there would be a lot of follow up questions. People would be like, help me do this. Like, how do I go about it? Where do I start? How do I, like, where do I start writing? Should I write posts or blogs or do what, right? And I realized this is too long of a conversation to have on a post. And that's when I started writing out the book. And it took me a year to write it out, to be honest, because I don't think I'm a very creative writer. I am very technical writer. So it took me a while to like expand what I'm trying to say into a book and then publish it out.
Well, being a technical writer is good. That means you give actionable tips and tricks, not just things up in the cloud.
So I personally love reading books like Atomic Habits. I've read the book Range. Like that's the kind of book that I typically read. Self-motivation and like, non-fictional books is what I read all the time. And one of the things that I've always felt is missing in these books is it's very preachy. A lot of times when I'm reading about other people's story, I'm like, I don't relate to it. Either you're not from the same culture, either you're not from the same profession, you've not gone through the same struggles, and it becomes very difficult to try to extract lessons for yourself from a book like that. And that's why I wanted the book to be like a workbook. Like it's practical. I'm sharing my tips, but then it's things that will be applicable for every single person who's reading it. And it's very actionable. Like it has worksheets, it has activities after every chapter. So that's how it's like it's a one size fits all because yeah, everybody reading it would be relating it to themselves based on whatever expertise that they have, and yeah, it's very actionable.
Love it. Yeah, I have a couple of Seattle trips planned out. So I'm going to buy the book, and for the next trip, I'm going to read it on the plane for sure.
You are too kind.
I love this because so I have a 10-year-old daughter. Sometimes I think daughters lose their self esteem a little bit, right? And this is like so inspiring to see that a girl from India now doing these trailblazing things at the same time helping others, building others up. So I'm definitely gonna show my daughter this episode as well. Okay, so on that note, I want to talk to you a little bit about your journey. So you grew up in India, you said, right? So how did your parents react to leaving big tech? I'm asking this because I was in Cognizant before and then Verizon, and every time I tell my parents, look, I'm leaving to do something different. I was in mainframe. Then I did a little bit of analytics. I was not smart enough to be a data scientist. I tried it. But then Raj, you got to scrub the data. And then I'm like, this is boring. So then I switched to cloud. And my parents will always be like, your company is treating you well. Why are you switching jobs? Why are you trying to move career? So I want to know a little bit of that perspective. You are trailblazing. You are going from IBM to FANG, now to a startup where things move at a very fast pace. How do you navigate all that?
So in my family, I just have my mom. My father passed away 6 years
Sorry to
ago.
hear. Okay.
And he was one of the most supportive parents that I've had. I don't think I've ever like spoken about him much because he was sick for like most part of my life. He was a very old father. He had me when he was 50. So he was a very old father. He retired while I was still in like my seventh, eighth grade. So he'd been a parent who was at home, but then I think I get my creative side from him because he was an arts student. He was a historian and like he used to sketch and paint. Like that was his main thing. And On the other hand, in India, you obviously know, like, being a historian or being a sketch artist is not going to pay you well. So my
Right.
mom was the breadwinner of the family. She used to like take care of everything, like all the expenses, like taking care of the family and stuff. So I have gotten the creative part of my father and the relentless, hardworking, being the alpha personality from my mother. And obviously, like, my mom is very blunt. Like, she doesn't like try to sugarcoat anything. She's very blunt and she'll say what is right on your face. And obviously, like, when I was moving from IBM to Google, my mom was like, why? Like, you have such a great team, and
Right.
why you like making this change? Obviously, she said the same thing again when I was moving from Google to Microsoft. She
Right.
said the exact same thing when I was moving from Microsoft to the startup. And she didn't understand a lot about like the startup world, or like, what is so exciting about it.
Right.
But nevertheless, she has been extremely supportive about everything that I do. She's curious, I would say. So that's why she's up with questions. She's like, why? Like, explain me why. And I make her sit down and I'm like, Mom, you worked in the same company for 30 years. And this generation is different. And this generation, and that's where I was explaining the personal branding with her as well. I'm like,
Right.
I don't want to be a cog in the wheel for a company. Every company is a stepping stone for my career.
Right.
So I want to see what's the right thing for me and my career. And if it means that I stay in a particular company, or if it means I move to a different company, that has to fit my career goals. And that's how I explain it to her. She's obviously super supportive. She's very curious and she makes a lot of jokes about me. But yeah.
I love it. No, I love this story. Talking about this new generation, any tips for the freshers who are entering the job market, how to navigate this chaotic job market?
So I would say one simple thing is, if you want to really set yourself apart, do not try to follow somebody, because that's the easiest option and that's what everybody does. They see that, hey, like, this particular set of people are becoming software engineers, and then they just like jump onto the same train and try to do the same thing without understanding the simple fact that every single person is different. Every single person has different areas of expertise, which is something not trainable, right? Like, there's
Right.
certain skills which are trainable skills, and there are certain skills which are just inherently in you. And one of my very old mentors had told me that, Ishwarya, there's two ways that you can go about your career. One is focus the amount of time that you have in the skill set that you're mediocre at, and it'll make you above average. But if you spend the same time on polishing the things that you're really good at, that's what's going to set you apart. And that is like my mantra for everything that I do in my career. And the other thing that has really helped me is to be open to pivoting. I do not like the question of where do you see yourself in 5 years, because I'm like, I don't know. Do you know where the market is going to be 5 years from now? No, right?
No,
Then how do
no.
you expect a person to know where they are going to be in the next 5 years? So I feel like if you ask me 5 years ago, I had just started my career. So I would have not known that I'm going to be working at a startup. I would have not known anything that I'm doing right now. So
Right.
my goal is just to keep learning, and wherever you feel is the right place, right chance to like pivot, just pivot, try to learn new things, because it's not just one skill that is going to set you apart. It's a combination of skills. It's the fact that you're a good software engineer and a good creative person and something else and something else. It's the combination of that skill set that's what makes you different. And that's what I would recommend people to do. And if I were to like give one last tip, I would say, try to like carve your own path, because as soon as you carve something for yourself, trying to get opportunities which give you a different sense of being. That's what like will drive you in a different direction. And yeah, just stay at it. Don't try to like be a cookie trying to fit a cutter. Be your own cutter. Like, try to figure out this
Love
for
it.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I love your straightforward, straight to the point advice. I saw a post that you did that really resonated well with me, which is like, a lot of the time, and because I grew up in India too, the Southeast Asian countries, we focus too much on the technical stuff. Like if I am coding well, I'm like, okay, this is it. I am the alpha and the omega. And if my manager cannot code anymore, then he or she is not worthy. But sometimes we lose the big picture. And I think all of us needs to augment our technical, tactical skills with the executive communication, how to represent your work, how to talk to management, right? That's what's gonna get you forward. Also, I feel like lot of my students, they're like, oh man, Raj, I could not get into Amazon, Google, Microsoft. My life is a failure now. I'm like, listen, I got into Amazon late 30s. Okay, you guys are like early 20s. You just passed college. Life is long. Just collect skills, do the stuff, join a company, do hands-on work, learn to talk to executives, and you'll probably make more money even without joining a fan company.
100%. 100%. And I mean, there are a lot of examples of people who have quit one of the fan companies and
Right.
done something great. Like, I can think about like countless examples, even like people at Fireworks. All the co-founders are ex-Meta, ex-Google. They've spent like 10-15 years at these companies and then decided to like follow something that they're deeply passionate about. So
Right.
it's not the case that once you get in and then like the life is all sorted out. You'll still
Right.
have to find your own path even within the company.
Right. Love it. Okay, Aishwarya, so we have a tradition. Whichever guests come to my show, I always ask them some rapid fire questions. You obviously have no idea about these questions, so I'm going to throw them at you and see what you answer.
Nash.
Okay, favorite Indian movie?
I would say kuch kuch hota hai. I have watched it probably like 20-30 times.
30 times. Okay, so first you love AI, then you love Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. Okay. Favorite Indian food?
Idli sambar any day.
Oh, I love idli. I love dosa a lot too. So I'm from West Bengal, Calcutta. But I got a job in Cognizant and then I had to go to Chennai and I stayed there for months. And I love Sarvana Bhavan. I have a lot of friends in Chennai. And I'm like, man, their dosa is like amazing. So there is a Sarvana Bhavan in New Jersey, but it's not as good as the one there. So I was going to Anna University there for classes and stuff because that's what they were teaching us. So good times in Chennai. Yeah. Okay. What's your go-to Gen AI tool right now?
Right now, I would say like 50-50. Cursor and ChatGPT. Those are like my go-to tool every single day. That's what I use most of the time.
Got it. What is the biggest myth about Gen AI you wish people would stop believing?
What is the biggest myth about Gen AI? I feel the biggest myth is the market size that people think about. I feel there's still a lot of market cap which is on traditional machine learning, automation, which is business focused tasks. That's the bottom line for any single organization. So the fanciest models are not gonna if it's not gonna give you the business value, it's not good enough. So I feel like the expectation of people that every single organization is going to be 100% running on Gen AI is the biggest myth.
Got it. PC or Mac?
Mac, if you had asked me this 5 years ago, I would have said PC, but now I've just figured out the copy paste on Mac, which I used to always confuse when I'm using my Mac
Right.
versus PC. So I've even switched my personal laptop to a Mac. So yeah.
I think sometimes, PC gets a bad rep. PC is good too. I do a lot of video games and stuff. I build
Yeah.
my own PC. I have a Mac for my work, which I'm very comfortable with, and also I have PC for my home.
Yeah.
But okay, totally makes sense.
I do have a couple of PCs to be honest. So the personal laptop that I have is a MacBook Air. So it has limited capabilities. So I do have another laptop which is a Dell and it's a super powerhouse. So if I'm
Yes,
running like Olama or like doing some fine
yes.
tuning on my laptop, that's when I pick up my other laptop. But yeah, from like day-to-day perspective, like doing my LinkedIn stuff, reading stuff, all of that is like on my lightweight Mac. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to have a Dell Alienware back in the days.
Oh,
Very,
nice.
very powerful machine.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to read a book? Paperback, Kindle, audiobook?
I am absolutely old school when it comes to books, and I cannot do a Kindle. I have tried multiple times and failed. I just cannot do a Kindle. I have to put stickers on it. I have to use marker on my book. That's what makes it my book.
Yeah.
And I always have to have a physical book. Preferably, I like the paper. I preferably like the hardcover because it comes
Yeah.
with a jacket and it sits very well in my shelves. But I have just switched to paperback because it's easier for me to carry it around when I'm going to trips.
Love it. I'm the same way. So I have like a bookshelf on the back, and then on the other room, I grew up like with hardcover books. So I have to like underline and stuff as well, fold the pages. And
Yes.
like reminds me of my college days where I will open a page which is folded right before the exam to revise quickly.
Yes.
Okay, startup or big tech?
Startup, any day. I think I have had my fair share of experience both at a startup and big tech. I just feel my personality is for a startup. I don't know, maybe like 10 years later, if you're gonna ask me, it might change. But then at this given point in time, I definitely feel my energy or like my ambition or like my goals, everything is inclined towards a startup ecosystem. I just love working at a startup. So yeah, startup.
Got it. If you can go to dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who will that be?
Go on a dinner with Indra Nui. She's been my biggest motivations for I can't tell you how long, but she's been my biggest motivations. I absolutely love each and every interview of hers. And I feel like, man, if every woman are as strong as her, this world would be a completely different place.
And which restaurant will you take Indra Nui to?
So I recently went to this restaurant called Elan. It's opened up in Bay Area. So I loved the cuisine, I loved the ambience, so I would probably take her there.
Excellent. I gotta check it out. How can people connect with you, Aishwarya?
LinkedIn, that's my holy place. That's where I reside. All the time that I'm awake, I'm spending a good amount of time on LinkedIn.
Excellent. Aishwarya, really, really honored and thankful for coming to the show and sharing your wisdom with my viewers. I wish you all the luck. I know you said you cannot predict what happens in the 5 years, but one thing we can predict that 5 years, Fireworks will be even bigger and probably a public company.
Let's hope that. That's
Let's
the
hope
goal.
that. Let's hope that. All right. Thank you, Aishwarya.
Thanks a lot, Raj.